So this is one of the most important videos that is in this teacher or educator's course, because in this video I'm going to show you the experience of what it's like to be a mum or a dad who has a child who's struggling with dyslexia. And if you can see what they're going through, it gives you and I a bit more compassion for some of the things that they say and do. And we can see the why of why they're so angry rather than just, whoa, why are we so angry? So as teachers, sometimes our focus is just on surviving the day and getting through to 5 p.m. so we can walk out the door and nobody died, everyone learnt something, and we're completely exhausted and we're just like, whoa, I've just got to get home and then tomorrow I can face another day. And that's a fairly common experience among teachers. It's also a fairly common experience among the children who really struggle with dyslexia and similar things. And so those children go home to their parents and they just tell their parents what's going on. And so here are some important things that parents would want us as teachers to know about helping their children. Okay, here's a good quote from a mum. It's very useful. She's pointing out a couple of things, but amongst it she says the same amount of homework time or the same amount of class time takes her child about twice as long as it does other students. And obviously that's creating dramas at home in the homework. But I'd also point out that it's probably costing her child twice as much energy, not just time, which again, a parent's seeing that and a parent's going to feel a bit sort of disillusioned and a bit helpless in that situation. Now here's another quote from a mum who lives in Australia. She says, every year I battle with the teachers until I'm exhausted, and every year I write off another year of my son's education. And you can just hear just how disillusioning that must be and how painful that must be as a parent. And man, how much would you not want to be in those shoes? What about this one? This is a mum saying, I'd love teachers and the school to understand that his behaviours stem from his learning difficulties and not because he's a naughty child. So, you know the drill. You know, the kids, they're stuck, they're sitting in class, can't do the work, they want to feel successful, so they act like a clown, they act like a goose. And that's obviously happening with her son. What about this one? I love this quote. My child is not slow or unintelligent. The processing speed is slow, but give them time to process. Teachers will be surprised that your patience will most likely result with you getting the correct answer. Now, it's very hard when you're a teacher of a whole group of kids, if a child's trying to answer a question and they're stumbling, you know, it's really normal to just go, yep, I'll be back with you in a minute, and then you turn to another child. But, you know, some of our kids, if the issue is dyslexia, we just want to give them a bit more time, you know. Now, here's another one that just came to me this morning. And this is a parent saying, I wish teachers would realise just how much effort it takes my son to sit down at a desk and to write anything. Having him miss break for extra handwriting practice and ridiculing him for his slowness in copying from the board has huge repercussions on his self-esteem. So as I read this, I thought, oh, here's actually a really well-intentioned teacher spending some of their own time with him at lunch while he does some extra handwriting practice, or basically while he catches up on the work he didn't do in class. So clearly the teacher's well-intentioned, or they wouldn't be putting that time in. And yet here's a child who that handwriting practice is not really going to deal with the core of the issue. And being slow to copy from the board, well, that's just what's going to happen for that child. And you know, having words with that child about that, it's not going to change anything. You know, we need to put things in place to help that child. So yeah, that was a bit heartbreaking. And here we've got another quote where a mother's pointing out that her child works harder and with more determination than the other children are having to use. I think she makes a very valid point that we can take on board. What about this one? I'm just as frustrated as my child. My heart breaks when I see my son struggling to read and write. Homework is 2 to 3 hours every day after he's struggled at school for 7 hours. So here we've got a mother who's seeing the other side. What we don't see as teachers is that the child goes home, they're obviously motivated, they wouldn't be putting in that time at home. And there's so many things that mum could do to make life easier for her child, but either way, you can hear the tough yards that child's dealing with at home. Here's another one that was emailed to me yesterday, and this one is a quote from a parent who's just on the mark, so helpful. She says, fighting with parents or taking a child's needs as a personal attack is not how you gain parent support, and it's not how you help children. And that's a pretty serious quote. I won't read all of it to you because, you know, you can just hear the anger there. But the bottom line is that you can see a situation where a teacher and a parent have clashed because the parent's asking for more, demanding more, and the parent is doing that out of a sense of frustration and has probably been down this path many times with other teachers. And the teacher's sitting there in that spot going, well, you know, why are you being so demanding of me? Why are you being so unreasonable? But what they don't see is behind the scenes is a parent who has probably got some very valid points, has probably done a lot of research on the internet, really knows what they're doing, and they're saying to the teacher, what you're doing is not going to work, you know, can you try this? And yeah, in perfect world, you know, maybe the parent could be a bit more diplomatic, but you've clearly got this clash. And sometimes as teachers, when we don't really know what we're doing, when we feel a bit out of our depth, we just sort of shut down a bit and we justify ourselves. And sometimes it is worth listening to them. What about this one? This one broke my heart a bit when I read it at first. It says, my child is very bright. She desires more than anything to be able to read a book by herself. As a parent of a child struggling with dyslexia, you feel so helpless at times. But check that out. You've got this little girl who she just wants so much to be able to read. So much. She just wants to be reading independently. She wants to be like the other kids. And here's this mum just seeing this. And as a parent, that would be such a heartbreaking thing. And finally, this one. Here's an encouraging entry. This deputy head teacher or deputy principal says, you can achieve as much as anyone. She says that to the children with dyslexia. She says they just need a little bit more time, more nurture, more self-determination, and that's from a deputy head teacher who has dyslexia, and I found that super encouraging. But these are the things that parents are wanting us to understand, and I think that when I read through these, it certainly gave me a level of compassion. I hope this has helped you as a teacher.